under the gun for their human rights violation, they chair Amnesty International. Terrific, you know. And then when they put under the gun, they say, why are you picking on us? So the governments tend to be somewhat ambivalent to the question. But there's a tremendous movement, not only within Amnesty International, but all over the world. Much of this impetus comes from the European experience with virtually making the Universal Declaration through the European system a code that can be enforced by the European Commission on Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights. In our hemisphere, we have an Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, we have an Inter-American Court of Human Rights. The Africans have got a Human Rights Charter, and they have an African Human Rights Commission. And there's pressure on the African governments to commit themselves to that and to see that it's actually given reality in the African context. There is a proposed Arab Bill of Human Rights, you see. So there's a tremendous movement. I mean, what Amnesty has done and been a part of, we've led, we've followed, but we've been part of a larger movement that I think is, as time has come for this generation.
Well, Doctor, finally, as an expert in race relations, and before we get to our last question with you, as an expert in race relations, do you think that there's a greater movement toward equality throughout the world, and will this impact upon what Amnesty International is doing? Will it help it in terms of carrying out its program?
Okay. There is an enormous expectation, rising expectations that revolve around the question of equality and fairness and equity. Equity for races, classes, across gender lines and so forth, across national lines as well. There's a tremendous amount of this. The debate takes place at many different levels, north, south, and so forth. So yes, there is. I mean, that's the short answer. What we see also in our age of telecommunications is a much sharper point of assessing the delivery of equality and fairness and equity against the demands, the insistent demands that people around the planet are making. I'm an optimist. I see tremendous progress here. I see what we call enormous problems as just a clearer and more specific articulation of those problems. We know the problems better than we knew them before.
Very good. Finally, Mr. Al-Salah, what do you see as the ultimate outcome in terms of the South African situation? Do you think that one day that there will be one man, one vote rule in South Africa?
That got outside my mandate, but that is a hope for everybody who is concerned and who believes in human rights, that is going to happen in South Africa. We pray that happens. When it is going to happen, it's hard to determine.
Very good. But do you feel that there's a movement toward equal rights, even ever so slow, in South Africa, or do you think that South Africa is so entrenched now that there will never be any real movement?
Well, as I say again, it still falls outside my mandate, okay. But what I can say is pressure coming outside into South Africa and the support given to the people fighting for their freedoms in South Africa will ultimately change the situation in South Africa.
Dr. Nagan.
The pressures are escalating on South Africa. The tremendous effort on the part of the American people in the face of the executive, the Anti-Apartheid Act.
Very good. And let me thank the two of you for coming by, as well as the other members of our panel, and talking about human rights and their violations today. And let me encourage you again to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments with Dr. Haney.